Hello, my name is Christine Rule, and I chose to do a sheltered lesson plan for students in second grade. My group will be 6 students that will be in a general education setting. The home language will be Spanish, and I will have 2 students with special needs. They will both have high functioning ASD or autism. So, and 4 of the students are expanding English language learners. My objective for this lesson is that students will be able to identify animal pollinators, and the activities include labeling male and female parts of a flower by using real flowers and a poster, visual to review background knowledge for what they've already learned previously, and they will read an animal pollinator's book, and they'll write sentences and draw pictures based on the animal pollinator's book, and they will group animals together, those that are pollinators and those that are not pollinators, so that they can identify which ones are pollinators. So from that, I'm going to just do a quick lesson, a quick part of the lesson. And this can be spoken mainly in English, but some can be spoken in Spanish as well. So I'll just start off with saying, today we're going to learn about how adult plants make baby plants. And I'll ask the questions like, have you ever seen a flower garden before? What did it look like? Were the flowers all by themselves, or were they with other flowers that looked the same? And then the children will say that they were with other flowers that look the same. I'll say, right, they're usually with flowers, the same types of flowers. So for example, I picked these flowers from my garden, and I didn't just pick one flower and there was only one flower all by itself. The flowers came in bunches, and they were with their flower friends that looked the same as them. So the question is, how did all these flowers come about? Because when I planted the flowers, I just started with a seed, or I just started with one flower. But where did all these other flowers come from? So the answer to that question is that these flowers were pollinated, and that's one of our vocabulary words, is pollination. So I'll show our vocabulary word, pollination, and I'll also have a poster of the flower parts of a flower, and the word pollination and the definition of pollination in English and Spanish, and it would be colorful in real life. So then I'll just read the definition of pollination, where it says, pollination is when pollen moves from the male part of the plant to the female part. This allows the plant to make seeds, which turn into baby plants. So it's when pollen goes from the male part of the plant, which is the stamen, into the female part, which is the carpel. So then we'll show this visual on the board, and kids can come up and point to each part, the stamen, the male part, and the carpel part, the female part. And then we could also show that in the flower, where if I had good flowers, I could show them which part is the stamen, and then which part is the carpel, and then kind of at least make it look like I'm putting pollen into the stamen, or into the carpel part from the stamen, just to show a visual for the kids to see and for them to do themselves as well. So also for vocabulary, we'd have another vocabulary card, which is our word pollinators. And then I would have the kids repeat after me, pollinators. And pollinators are animals that cause plants to make seeds. So for example, like hummingbirds, or I could ask some questions like, what kind of animals do you usually see around flowers? Say something about birds, and they might say butterflies and bees and things, which are fine, but it's mainly about animals, not just the insects. And then, let's see, you could also say pollinators and pollination in Spanish as well, to help the students understand and see the similarities between the Spanish words and the English words. And let's see. And then I would read the book to them, which I don't have the book, but I would read the book to them and then use simplified speech to ask the students, like, what kind of animals do you see? What are the animals doing to the plants? And what is something you learned from this book? And what animals help pollinate flowers and plants? So it would just go into that, and then I would have little toy figures of like hummingbirds and bats and other animals that do pollinate plants, and then other toy figures of like whales or polar bears or animals that obviously are not pollinators, and have them categorize them into different groups. So with that said, some of the successes, I think, of this lesson plan are that there are lots of visuals and hands-on activities for students to be engaged in learning. So they'll get to be touching the flower and get to see where the stamen and the carpel is, and where the pollen is and how it goes inside. And also the visual poster, and how they'll get to write sentences about the book and draw pictures and use the toy figures to categorize which ones are pollinators and which ones are not. So I think the visuals and hands-on activities will help. Also, I think the challenges are that I don't know Spanish, so I could use the help of a Spanish-speaking paraprofessional, or also a Google Translator. And I may need to give more attention or time to the students with ASD. I know that I could also use a visual timer or a little schedule just to describe what is like what we're gonna, the list of activities and the order they're going to happen in, to help the students with transitions from activity to the next activity, and a timer to let them know how much time we have left. With writing our sentences until we go on to the toy activities of categorizing. So that's my lesson. Thank you so much. Goodbye.